just, so you'll all know, we are Northwest Grassroots. We are also affiliated with the Tea Party Patriots. We've been doing movie night for about 6 years. We focus on conservative issues, the Constitution, current events, and despite what Ozzie Knezovich says, we are not a hate group. So just to let you know, the Tea Party Patriots organization did endorse Ted Cruz for president. We felt it was far too early to be doing any endorsements and wish they hadn't done it, but that's how it goes. So just let you know where we are. And what I'm going to say is that the more debates I watch and the more I read, the more I listen, I just know that any one of those GOP candidates are going to be a heck of a lot better than anything the Democrats are placing. So that's how I'm looking at it. Now, we normally go through sort of what's gone on or what's coming up, and there's honestly too much going on. As you know, we've had North Korea launching a long-range rocket for scientific and peaceful purposes. And then, of course, the UN Security Group, they're going to have sanctions. And they may even, pass a resolution. And so that's really, really important. So much for that one. And then we have Russia, and they're bombing the CIA-backed moderate rebels in Syria, and Iranian forces are coming in there to, into the region too. And, what we're told is that Moscow sees eye to eye with the U.S.-led coalition and is only targeting ISIS militants. And, for all we know, that could be right. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on national stuff because the way I look at it is there's not a lot that we can do about it. What happened to my little dilly bop? Oh, well, we have a new immigration order. And what that immigration order is really telling our Border Patrol is to stand down. If an illegal claims they have been here since January 2014, and that they don't have any arrest warrants out for them, that they're to let them go. The administration also found it was really embarrassing that when they issue their notices for them to appear, that they don't do it, and so they've just stopped issuing them so they won't be so embarrassed. So it's as long as an immigrant claims that, they're okay. The other thing that's interesting is actually about 47,000 Cubans have entered the United States over this past little bit. And they're concerned that because we've warmed up relations between Cuba and the United States, that the act that we have, the Cuban Adjustment Act, will be nullified. And what that act is if you're a Cuban and you show up on the soil of the United States, you are immediately eligible for fast track to permanent legal status. You're immediately eligible for benefits. You're immediately eligible for basically your path to citizenship. So Ecuador is the only country that allows the Cubans to come without a visa, so they've been flooding into Ecuador and then trying to make their way on up to Mexico and then to the border. And some of the countries got a little upset with this, so they closed their borders. And a bunch of them have been stuck. I think it's in Costa Rica. So now Costa Rica is planning flights for them so they can fly from Costa Rica to Mexico to come up to our border, step on our soil, and get all the benefits that they want. So I thought that was pretty cool. So if any of you need benefits immediately, be a Cuban. And then, of course, we're being amused by the presidential candidates. They are filling the news, and I think it's a pretty darn entertaining election season. What do you think? And so we're going to know tonight who's the one who's won the New Hampshire primary, if we really think that makes a difference. So with all of that said, is there anything that we can do about any of this? Not really. And, there's not much that I can say about all of it other than it's great distraction. It keeps us amused. It keeps us entertained. I'd much rather watch the Super Bowl every week than this kind of stuff. But what do you think of a Super Bowl? I sort of, you know, if somebody had asked me about it beforehand, I would have said my head is with Carolina, my heart's with Denver, because I really wanted to see Peyton Manning have a winning game, and so I'm sort of glad it turned out the way it did. So let's just move on to a little bit of education. And this is a new video. It just came out. It's put on by the John Birch Society, and it is concerning a constitutional convention, an Article 5 con, or whatever you want to call it. So, short video here.
The United States of America. Beginning in 1776, America emerged as a free and independent nation. By 1787, delegates from 12 of the 13 states met in Philadelphia to revise the system. What was produced was the Constitution, the finest governmental system ever devised by man. It was designed to govern the government, not the people nor the states. The checks and balances and separation of powers within the Constitution ensured the rights of the people would be protected. The founders even went one step further to ensure these liberties would always be protected by adding 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights. However, over the past 2 centuries, many things have changed. All 3 branches have increasingly expanded their powers. This has led to the bloated deficit spending, out-of-control federal government of today, which is increasingly violating our rights to free speech, religion, privacy, and much more. Becoming alarmed, many are demanding that something be done. Some are advocating that we, the people, exercise our right to amend the Constitution through an Article 5 convention, also known as a constitutional convention, a con, or a convention of the states. An Article 5 convention is a gathering of delegates for the purpose of proposing amendments to the Constitution. According to Article 5, amendments to the Constitution can be proposed by either 2/3 vote in both houses of Congress, or 2/3 of state legislatures submitting their applications to Congress to call a convention. With a convention, responsibility rests with delegates appointed or elected from all 50 states. Currently, there is no way of knowing who your delegates will be or whether they are constitutionally minded. Amendments are then proposed, debated, and voted upon at the convention. Congress then sends proposed amendments out to the states for ratification. Finally, the proposed amendments need to be ratified by 3/4 of the states before they can be added to the Constitution. Those in favor of this amendment process believe there are adequate safeguards to prevent ratification of harmful amendments or even a complete rewrite of the Constitution. They believe state legislatures will stop any bad amendments since only 13 states are needed to reject them. The danger of this idea is that according to Article 5, state legislatures can be bypassed in the ratification process. Article 5 allows Congress to send proposed amendments for ratification to either state legislatures or special state conventions. This is not the only danger. A convention could also create a new ratification process, much like the Convention of 1787 did when it changed the ratification requirement from unanimous approval by all 13 state legislatures to approval by special conventions in 9 of the 13 states. Currently, 3/4 of the states need to ratify, but if a new process was created, it could be changed to anything. The greatest danger is that an Article 5 convention has the inherent power to become a runaway convention. Consider the Constitutional Convention of 1787. It did not stop at revising the Articles of Confederation. It completely rewrote them. This power to be a runaway convention is supported in the Declaration of Independence. It states the people have the right to alter or abolish their form of government whenever it fails to secure their rights. A total rewrite of the Constitution may have been needed in 1787, but under the current conditions of today, we do not have the statesmen of the past. We have the politicians who have helped create this mess. Ask yourself, is the Constitution the problem, or is it the out-of-control government that is not obeying the Constitution? So, what can you do? The solution is to have a large-scale, grassroots educational program that will inform voters about the Constitution. Once educated, they will be motivated to nominate and elect federal and state officials who will obey the Constitution. Then, Constitution-minded public officials will begin restoring the government's protection of our rights. They will also roll back government programs and spending in accordance with the Constitution, so that the average citizen can experience lower taxes, stable or decreasing prices, and increasing job opportunities. This can be done, but we need your help. Those who have embraced the idea of changing the Constitution by means of an Article 5 convention need to realize this is not the solution. Back in 1983, 32 of the required 34 states had applied for an Article 5 convention for proposing a balanced budget amendment. Because of a national campaign to stop the BBA CON-CON movement, by 2011, state legislatures from 16 states had rescinded or taken back their applications for a BBA Article 5 convention. Today, the movement to call an Article 5 convention is growing once again. As of 2015, some states have ignored their rescissions by renewing their applications for a convention to propose a BBA. Others have approved a BBA CON-CON application for the first time. This has resulted in 27 states now having a live application for a BBA Article 5 convention. Being only 7 states away from Congress calling such a convention, we need your help. Contact your state legislature and stop the approval of all state applications to Congress for an Article 5 convention, no matter what the reason. Next, inform others about the role of the Constitution in our system of government. An informed electorate will not only solve the problems of today, but ensure that only constitutionalists are elected tomorrow. It is time to create an informed electorate so that Congress and state legislatures will adhere to the Constitution, not amend it.
Okay, thank you. So we have constitutions out front in the table. If any of you don't have one, please be sure to pick one up. You know, we lost probably our best constitutional teacher here in Spokane last year, John Beal. He just put his heart and soul into seeing that we understood what the Constitution was about, what our rights were, and really understanding that it is a living document, or not a living document, but it's a living document in how our politicians are supposed to be adhering to it. And so if you pick up your Constitution, if you guys feel that you want to have Constitution classes again, I'm sure that somebody will step up and do an excellent job in providing those classes for you. So I hope you do that. What I want to do now, since we did a John Birch thing. Yes, sir. You may.
What you just saw was one presentation that was against this process. If you want to know the information, then you need to go to a book called The Liberty Amendments, written by Mark Levin, who goes into detail, and there's a lot of things that he said which were borderline.
What I want to say is that there are pieces of purple paper on your table. If a state if a convention of states interests you, a con-con or whatever, you are going to find a wealth of information pro and con. You don't want to rely on a short video. You don't want to rely on one book. But you do want to, if this is of interest to you, you do want to research it. Mark Levin has great points in his book as to why and how. They bring up the things that can go wrong with it. But the only thing is if this interests you, write it down on your paper, do your own research. That's how I look at anything that's brought up here. No, I am not saying it's good or bad. I'm saying this is a new video that came out today from the John Birch Society. I'm presenting it.
Well, let me give you one example of a borderline. Is if we follow the Constitution, then the senators are going to continue to be elected the way they're elected now. That's not the way it was set up in the Constitution.
That's correct.
There was an amendment
The 17th, that's right.
and it needs to be annulled. It needs to be changed. But if you give our congressmen and senators the opportunity to do that, they won't do it.
That's right.
Voting themselves out.
You're right. No, there's many things that,
The constitutional,
correct. And there are other ways that the Constitution can be changed.
not a constitutional convention.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, it is, as you can see, a issue that is controversial, and it requires understanding and study. So as I said, I think it's a very interesting discussion that's going on now. I can see many reasons for us. I would like to see our Constitution sort of be brought back to the 10 Bill of Rights, and let's go forward from there. Because we have some amendments that are absolutely terrible. 1913 was a horrible year. We changed how we did the senators. We imposed an income tax. We did a lot of silly things since then. So, but I'm not sure that we're any wiser today than we were in 1913. That's the one thing that's a little scary. But going back to, and this is again a John Birch publication, but once every 6 months they come out with what they call their Freedom Index. So I want you guys to be very, very proud of your Republican representatives in the House. The highest ranked one is Newhouse. He's the gentleman that replaced Doc Hastings, right. And he's at 56%. No, he's at 60%. Herrera Butler's at 56%. Kathy McMorris Rogers is at 50%. And Reichart, the other Republican, is at 50%. When you go to the Senate, we are obviously with our two Democrats, where Murray and Cantwell, they both rank at 20%. And so with that, Chris Nearson is here tonight, and he has a Valentine's suggestion, and he wants to come up and address you for a moment. Well,
And just remind them, you got to sign off.
well, Chris has now changed to Rob. And I have places for Rob in this program later, too.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a Valentine to dear Kathy, dear Patty, dear Maria. Those are our elected federal representatives. And Chris Narrison and I and Kaylani Bonner up there, and who else was there? I saw some. Oh, John was there videotaping the entire thing. But we went to Kathy's office, we went to Patty Murray's office, and went to Cantwell's office with our remonstrance, our reasons why we were against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And I can speak more about that later, but it's a terrible bill. And there's probably about progressives outnumbered, it's about 2 to 1, but it's kind of growing. And like we've learned in Centers for Self-Governance and those places, it's really within the hands of the constituents to reach out to the representatives. And I think we actually are getting the message across. I think it's starting to grow. It was signed in New Zealand February 4th by President Obama, and there's 11 other countries that belong to it, but it's 2,000 pages longer than Obamacare. And also it gets into things besides trade. It gets into health care, it gets into immigration, it gets into the internet, surveillance, local laws, and it's a myriad of other things too. So it's not good legislation, and I think it could be the, from our side of things, it's kind of like the main thing with us is a loss of sovereignty, and the whole purpose is to go towards global government, but yet all 12, counting the 2 senators of our elected federal officials in the states of Washington gave trade promotion authority to President Obama. And I noticed Kathy's latest fundraising letter I got a few days ago talked about the 8 terrible years of this untrustworthy president that we've had. But why would you give him carte blanche on this too? And actually been fighting this for a year. Jim Robinson is also fighting this. And it's interesting, the other guy who was a spokesman besides me, we both ran against George Nethercutt in 2002. And I ran as a Libertarian at that time, but Bart Hagan ran as a Democrat. We were both the guys at Kathy's office and the other offices reading our remonstrances. Now, if Jim Robinson is a Gandalf of the right here locally, then Bart Hagan is a Gandalf of the left, you know. But this is, the nice thing about it is common cause, so we're all on the same wavelength. So these are on your table there. We'd like to send these to Kathy's office. It says, Dear Kathy, roses are red, violets are blue, vote no on TP, and I'll heart you. And very, very simple. It's not anything bad, but kind of like the message, if she gets enough of them, you know, for Valentine's Day goes across. So is there anything else, Chris, besides sending those to her?
Okay, and Chris, I believe, has them at his table, so if people want them, you...
Okay. We'll be right there if you want to pick one of these up. But, you know, the more feedback we can give to them, the more, you know, the illumination, the light will go on with Kathy and everybody else. Thank you, Cecily.
Thank you. Okay, so we sort of decided that there's not a whole lot we can do about all of this other stuff going on, but we can move on to local happenings, guys, because this is where we can make a difference. We really can. And, you know, last month we talked about the Todd Milkey had resigned, and that was leaving a vacancy, and so there was going to be a vacancy appointment process, and that happened this last Saturday. And there were 4 candidates. Dale Strom was eliminated. You heard from the 4 of them last month, and they actually, Josh Kearns can't be here because he's in Olympia, but the other 2 are here to talk to you. And so we'll go first with Nancy McLaughlin. Nancy was selected first with 91 votes. She had a brilliant presentation. I've got to say, I just sat there and said, wow. And maybe she'll tell you just a teeny bit about it. Will you? Okay, I really would, because it was, I'm going, okay, that was good. So come on up, Nancy, and just tell us a little bit about that presentation, but then what you're looking for as far as the group. And stand inside the lines.
Well, thank you. You're on. It's on. Thank you, everybody. I'm happy to say Saturday's over. It was interesting going up to that date, but just want to really thank you all for the trust that you're placing in me by putting me first on the list. The speech that I gave in 3 minutes, I'll have to share with you is that as a Christian, the Thursday night before, I had an encounter with, have any of you actually ever feel the Spirit of the Lord? I mean, as Christians, we should feel the Spirit of the Lord as we spend time with Him. And Thursday night, I was going over my notes, and it was between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m., and I was giddy with the Spirit of the Lord. As I was writing, it was like, Lord, this is incredible, what you're giving me, and I'll be obedient, and I'll say what you want me to say. And I meant it. And so that's how it came about. And usually we would have spent all day the day before just worrying about it. And I was at perfect peace. And
so you brought props.
It wasn't me. I brought some props. It wasn't me. It was a total God thing. And so the next step is on February 22nd in the morning, I pulled the 8 a.m. interview. God's got a good sense of humor. But I'll get it over first. And then Jeff, what time is yours? Yours is 9, so that means Josh will be 10 o'clock. And I've been told that then the 2 remaining commissioners are expected to go into executive session after that time and come out with an appointment. So I'm sure we're all going to be, the 3 of us will be spending time and prepping for that interview. We'd ask for your prayers. All of us, I'm sure, want your prayers for the morning of the 22nd. And I'm assuming it's open if anybody wants to come down and listen in and make us nervous. You can do that. And
Nancy's being fun. What happens on this is these guys are given 3 minutes to introduce themselves to the crowd. Who am I? And so what she did is she brought props. She brought a Bible, she brought a Constitution, she brought her concealed weapons permit, she brought a
Baby.
a little baby, and a warrior horse.
Yeah.
And then she basically explained from those things, this is who I am, and it was clever, girl.
Thank you. Well, God's clever, obviously, you know.
So it's
But, okay.
the 22nd.
It is, and thank you so much.
Great. Okay. And then the second round of voting, because this goes in 3 rounds, was Josh Kearns, and he got 90 votes. And of course, he's not here because he's with us in Olympia. And I've got to say, I was really impressed with Josh's speech and his ability. Like I said, each person was given 3 minutes to talk, and Josh did so with absolutely no notes, not standing in front of the podium, no hesitation, and he delivered a speech that was right on, and very, very passionate, and really explained why he felt he would be the best person for the job very, very well, very convincingly. And, you know, I wish we'd had the foresight to have recorded these talks, because a video presentation would have been a lot of fun for you guys to have been able to see. And then in the third round, so we have Nancy, then we have Josh. I forget to click. And then in the third round, Jeff and Dale were the 2 people remaining, and Jeff won that handily with 121 votes. And he was really at a slight disadvantage. You would have gotten a kick out of this meeting, but when they called for nominations, all of the campaigns are trying to be strategically smart, so nobody's going to run up there and be the first to nominate. If I'd been Dave Moore, I would have asked for 3 nominations really fast and said we have no nominations, because they're all let's let so-and-so go first, let's let so-and go first. So finally, the Baxter campaign came first and did the nominations, and Brenda Grassel made the nomination, and Mike Fagan did the second. Now, there's no reason that the speeches have to be done in the order that people come up and are nominated. And Dave Moore got that, but then we had one of these PCOs stand up and challenge it and say, don't you have to follow the rules? Wasn't in the rules. So if there are any PCOs in here, would you please read your rules and know what they say? Because that challenge was totally bogus. And so poor Jeff, he has to get up there and give the very first speech. And I'm going, oh, that was just mean. And so, as I said, Jeff ended up with 121 votes. He is also one of the people that are there to the commissioners. As Todd Milkey said in his talk before, it makes absolutely no difference who's first, who's second, who's third. They all stand an equal chance. So Jeff, come on up and tell us what you want us to do.
Okay, this time I know to stand in between these white lines. I guess it's takeoff field. So here's what I've been doing, folks. For the past month, I've been going down to the county courthouse about 3 times a week, roughly. 2 to 3 times a week. Going to the commissioners' meetings, listening to what they have to say, their public meetings, which today was it's Tuesday at 2 p.m. So I was there with them today. And finding out just a little bit about the job, meeting with everybody down there from Bob Wrigley to Jimmy Maciano. Did I pronounce that correct, John?
Yep.
Imacio, there we go. Did it wrong again. And so it's been very interesting. I've been studying under Bob Wrigley a number of times the different budgets, from general budgets to what they call enterprise funds. Enterprise funds are something like Parks and Recreation, or the fairgrounds is a separate enterprise funds. Studying where the money goes, how the money's distributed. And so I'm just going to list off my priorities. If I'm appointed, here's some of my priorities. Coming from a business perspective, I've been a business owner for over 28 years. And as I said at the meeting, we've been a debt-free business owner. We've been successful. And we have a lot of freedom with our business to allow me to do things like, be a senator or run for a county commissioner or whatever. So my priorities, after studying under these guys and talking with everybody, making sure that the budget from the general funds and the enterprise funds are properly directed. Very simple. We need to make sure that the money that is directed for that enterprise fund or that general fund gets to the proper agency. The second thing is very simple as well. Streamlining all 35 agencies, I believe there's 35, and making sure they have the proper tools to meet their job. The tools that could be anywhere from a shovel to new software, new computer systems, because I knew some of the agencies are 15, 20 years behind on their software and need it to be upgraded so they can run it more efficiently and more effectively for your tax dollars and my tax dollars. That's very important to me as a business owner. And the third thing is auditing and looking for waste in each of the agencies. They seem to be doing a good job down there by and large. I'm going to give them credit. But there's always room for improvement in any agency, in any business. There's always room for growth, for success, for doing a better job. And I want to make sure that we have no waste in the agencies, making sure that your tax dollars are being used properly and wisely, and then working with the business agencies to do that. So the last thing is transparency, making sure that there's transparency in the county with the county commissioners and what's going on so that we as a people have a posting every week or YouTube videos, whatever it takes to get that transparency out there. So last point, I want to make sure that we work with the existing businesses that are there to make sure that they're solid, and bringing in new businesses such as Orange Tech Fitness Center that's moving into the county from the South Hill. They're adding one into the county because it's a business-friendly environment. We've got Caterpillar. We've got Comcast that moved in. Employs about 750 people, as I understand it, roughly. Good-paying, career-paying type jobs. I want to make sure that we have a good, friendly environment so that we can draw those type of businesses in, and making sure that the new businesses that are established are solid and coming here for growth and for jobs and for opportunities for all of us. Thank you.
So I understand that if you guys have comments that you want to send into the commissioners, you can do so. You can look them up as Spokane County Commissioners, and email addresses are there, and you can sure let them know who you feel they should be supporting.
Yeah, if you have a pen and paper, Commissioner French, his email address is afrench@SpokaneCounty.org, afrench@SpokaneCounty.org, and Shelley O'Quinn, her email address is soquinn@SpokaneCounty.org. So there they can be reached there, or you can write a physical letter as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. You know, this is our, well, Rob already talked, so I'm not going to let him talk now. This is our, I have a slide for him a little later too, so. This is our open mic time. I have a few things to make you aware of, but before I do, Dan wants to talk to you a little bit about, Captain Dan wants to talk to you a little bit about the 63rd Lightfoot Militia.
He grew another leg though.
You're ready.
Thank you. Well, good evening.
Inside the lines, Dan. You gotta stay inside the lines.
You weren't kidding, were you? Okay. Well, hello everybody. I appreciate you giving me a few minutes to speak to you, and I'm sure that there's quite a few questions out there that I might be able to answer for you. I felt it was important, though, that I showed up as the commander of the 63rd for the last, 8 to 10 years. And we have elections every October, every year. Somehow I've been asked to be the commander every year. But it's time for me to rotate out. It's been time for me to rotate out for years. It's a matter of giving up that position to new people. And that's what I believe in. What we're doing here is getting elected officials, getting them in that are well qualified to do what we need to do as far as patriots, as far as protecting the Constitution and our rights in that. But we need to get good people in, and then we need to get them the hell out. Okay? And the reason for that is because of what we're seeing right here locally with our own sheriff. Now, I don't know how many of you have a good feeling about our sheriff here. Wow, really? Okay. I'll keep the food in your bodies there. Okay. Well, the reason I wanted to talk tonight was this. I have tried to keep the sheriff as how's the saying going? You keep your friends dear, and you keep your enemies closer, right? Now, am I saying that Sheriff Ozzie is an enemy? No, I'm trying not to look at it that way. Okay, because when you start doing that way, then you're closed-minded to any and everything. But what I do want to say tonight to you, and why I'm standing here, is that I am very, very, did I say very, concerned about Ozzie Kanevich. Many of you, in all honesty, were ahead of me in wanting to even say that, okay? You've been long standing against him and some of the things he's been saying. I'd like to kind of allow people to really show their colors, you know, in a lot of different ways. He has showed his colors in a lot of ways. Now, with me saying that, I want to say that because of the position that I'm in as the commander of the 63rd, as a militia person, okay? As you all know, we get hammered day in and day out in the news, both locally and across the nation as a militia. We have a good standing, not only here locally, but across the nation, okay? We have an outstanding name. And we have a good relationship with Alphabet Soup. Who would you think Alphabet Soup is? Federal, right? FBI, DEA, anything that has to do with firearms. We have a good rapport with them. And that rapport is important for not only for us as militia, but for you. But what I want to explain to you tonight is this. I have been in meetings after meetings with trying to get things resolved with Burns, Oregon. Okay? 2 weeks straight, no work, nothing but Burns, Oregon. Okay? Federal agencies coming, talking to me constantly because they know they have an open door with me, trying to get a hold on what they're thinking in order to get some sort of resolve to it. They don't get it. They just flat out don't get it. Okay? They understand to some extent, but they don't get it. So what I'm wanting you to know tonight is that with our elected official, Sheriff Kanevich, is that he and as well as the Alphabet Soup has said this to us. If you get pulled over, or you're wanting to be pulled over by a law enforcement official, no matter whether it's a marked or unmarked vehicle, you will pull over. If you don't submit to the authority and what they're saying in the immediate context of the word, meaning when he says, put your hands, get down on the ground, if you do not perform what they're saying in an immediate way, you could very well be in the same situation that Lavoie is in. Which is telling, what is that telling it? What is that telling us? Okay, that's a death threat. Okay? Now, this is very, very, very alarming to me because first off, it tramples all over the Constitution. My argument that I want to make you aware of tonight, my argument with the authorities, whether it's sheriff, whether it's Alphabet Soup, is this. So that means if you put up your hands, but you don't get down in the time frame that you expect them as a law enforcement officer, that you will shoot them, whether they're armed or not, whether they brandish a weapon or not. And basically the answer was, you take that chance if you do not perform according to the law enforcement officer that's confronting you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, we have a major problem, okay? And we have a huge responsibility here, and that's why, again, the Tea Party is so important, and you need to have more family and more friends here, okay? Because we have got to change the minds and hearts of people through elections, period. Weapons will do it, but I tell you what, there's going to be lots of bloodshed. And it's not the initial way to go. It should be the absolute last resort. And I need you to know that as the commander of the 63rd, that has always been my philosophy. And just like the beautiful young lady that was up here speaking, the Holy Spirit leads my way of thinking, okay? But tonight, what's important for you to know, and my militia members don't even know at this point, is that what I just shared with you, if you do not perform as a as the law enforcement expects you to perform, you could very well be in the same position as Levitican. Okay? So you need to make your choices. If you carry, if they know that you carry a weapon, that you will be put on alert that you are being, to the law enforcement, that you are carrying a weapon, and you will be instructed basically the same way as Levitican. Okay? So you must perform. So the warning tonight is you either perform. If you step out of line, you very well could be shot. That's plain and simple. It's exactly what they said to me. It's exactly what they want me to get back to anybody in the militia, is exactly what's going to happen. So what does that mean to each and every one of you? Anybody? How many of you have concealed weapons permits? A good many, majority, okay? And many others aren't telling me. That's fine. Well, but even those that aren't carrying, that don't have a weapons permit, just be concerned that that's what's going to happen. Okay? So anyway, tonight with that, I just want to let you know what the temperature gauge was. It's not good. I was hoping for better. I'm still working with the Alphabet Soup and others in order to try to get a better understanding of what we are, who we are, and that they need to stay on task with the Constitution and constant reminder of the Constitution, because I guarantee you this communist, and it is a communist regime, it's not a social regime, it is a communist regime that is moving forward, that wants to eliminate what was up here on the movie earlier, wants to eliminate that old piece of paper. God bless you all, and just keep us in prayer, please. Thank you.
Quick question for Dan.
Go ahead.
Dan, have you talked to the sheriff's union, the deputies association?
To the actual unions themselves, no, but the union representative was there. We have, just so you know, we have a meeting every quarter with Sheriff Ozzie, and then lately it's been a lot sooner than that, but he'll normally have a union representative there, a captain, yeah.
Okay, so Dan will be here for you guys to ask questions of. I think we need to move this along. You're standing there. Are you having something to say? Okay, cool, because we're running late. What we've got, I just like bringing, this is why you have the purple papers on your tables. These are the new gun bills that they're considering over in Olympia. You have 1747, and what that is about is safe storage of weapons in, so that if a person is found guilty of child endangerment due to unsafe storage, leaving or storing a firearm in a location where a child could gain access, you're a bad person. And it requires firearm dealers to offer to sell or give purchasers a lockbox, a lock, or a device that prevents firearms from discharging, and providing warnings regarding criminal liability, that kind of thing. Nothing in the Act is intended to mandate how or where a firearm is to be stored, but remember that if they think it's not stored correctly, you could be charged with the child endangerment. So it's, what was that? Is your hip safe? I don't know. Can a little kid get to that? So 1747, 2461 is an extreme risk protection order. Now this one bothers me. The other one bothers me, but this one bothers me because it allows a law enforcement officer, a child welfare agency, a family or household member of a person to petition for a court order to enjoin the subject of the petition from having in his or her custody or control, purchasing, possessing, or receiving a firearm. It goes on requiring law enforcement agencies to develop procedures for accepting, storing, and returning surrendered firearms. It authorizes courts to issue a warrant to seize firearms from the subject. And and then all that information is entered into a judicial information system. And I have known of a case, and I'm sure many of you know of the same type of things, where a mother is concerned that her son is despondent. Everything's gone to heck, his wife's left him, the dog bit him, you know, everything's terrible. And he relays to his mother that, I just might as well kill myself. Mother's a little bit of a drama queen, and she calls the authorities. So the guy has indicated that he's going to commit suicide. Don't do that, because as soon as you do that, you have absolutely destroyed that person's life. Their guns are taken, their money's taken, so they can't get away. Just everything goes to heck for them. And I don't like the idea of child protection agencies and law. I just don't think we need that. So check into that one really, really carefully. 2372 is the disposition of forfeited firearms in the custody of local law enforcement. In the past, when law enforcement has firearms, and let's say that they, for one reason or another, still have them, the person's been found guilty or whatever's happened, they sell them. They sell them to dealers, they have auctions, etc. Now they're required to destroy them. So again, it's this idea of getting firearms away, out of public use, etc. It's quite a lengthy one, but do read it over. It's something that you want to say no to. 2460, providing local authorities with the authority to regulate firearms in certain public places. So, you know, that's your parks and your libraries and those kinds of things. And we already have so many laws that regulate that already. So why do we need another one on the books, right? And then we've got 2481, and that expands. Hey guys, did you hear me? Expands the authorized activities with respect to short-barreled rifles and their parts. So that's an expand. All the others are, you know, down with you. But so anyway, write those numbers down, look them up, and I'll give you the website to go to so you'll know where to comment on these things. But you do need to start really letting your legislators and the others that are pushing this stuff what you think about their bills. Now, this is a bill that Jeff Holy asked me to bring to your attention. And it's enacting the Washington Voting Rights Act. Now, we have a federal Voting Rights Act, and that came into being back in the Civil Rights days. And it technically is so that we don't discriminate. I wish they, it got smoky in here. So he asked for our voices to be raised in opposition to this bill. I'm not sure about it, but I'm glad we have some elected officials here tonight, because maybe they'll be able to give us a little more light on it.
How'd that pass if they've got 50 no's?
Yeah, I did that backwards. It was 50 yes, 47 no. It was straight down party lines. I'm sorry. And so if adopted, the proponents say the bill would provide an easier and swifter path to justice for individuals who have been shut out of their local elections. And right now, if they feel they've been shut out, it's a federal procedure they go through. This would allow them a state procedure. Now, opponents say it opens state and local governments to lawsuits if a minority group feels they're not represented after their candidate loses. And the companion bill in the Senate is 5668. And what it does is it authorizes district-based elections and requires redistricting in new elections in certain circumstances. So in this case, I believe it was Yakima, where Yakima has 40% Hispanic. And they had people running for the city council, and they were defeated, and yet they really felt that they should have won. And when they went to the district, it took a lot of finagling in court and money and the whole thing, but when they went to the district race, they did win. So technically, how I read this is in our primaries for the commissioner, it is it's only the district that votes in the primary, correct? And then in the general election, the entire county votes. So or let's take the city council. If you're running in one section of the city council in the primary, only that portion votes, but in the general, the entire city. And so if you were let's say a minority and won pretty heavily in the primary, but then got defeated in the general, that person could say that they're being discriminated against. And so that's what this Washington Voting Rights Act is. So what it would technically do, and I don't know, you guys might think it would be pretty cool, instead of having to campaign in the whole county for the general election for commissioner, you only have to campaign in District 1. Maybe that works, but but anyway, that's what this bill is about. And as I said, Jeff really feels that it's something that we need to be in opposition to. I don't know if any of you have more understanding of it, but check it out and see what you think. But 1745 is on its way for us to have our very own Washington State Voter Right Act, and we won't have to just defer to the federal one. So to comment on bills, what you do is you go down to that URL at the bottom there, the apps.leg.what, and you can search for bills. And so all those numbers I gave you, you can search them. There's also a thing on the side where you can see what's coming up in different committees, that kind of thing. There's a place that you can go to comment on this bill. And then you also know the names of your legislators and their email addresses and things, so you can write to them directly. But you do need to start, we know that our guys are going to vote the way we want. And so we go, we don't have to say anything to them because we know how they're going to vote. But I think Jim has been over there in Olympia for so many years with Matt. You feel sort of silly when the Democrats come in with a shopping cart full of emails and letters from their constituents against something that we want or for what we're against. And we come walking in with a little handful because, hey, we know that, Matt Shea or Jeff Holy or whatever, they're going to vote the way we want, so we don't have to say anything to them. You need to support them with your comments. Okay, so that's the end of open mic, unless there's anybody out here that has something they want to say. Yes, Chris. I know I'm over time.
I'd like you to sign it 3 times horizontal.
On your Valentines, he wants them signed across
three
horizontally.
times horizontally, so that we have one for each congressional delegate, or for the senators and for McMorris.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have some great upcoming events coming up. Initially, this is really important because it's for tomorrow. And what we're looking for is it's an informational meeting at the Downtown Onion. It's by invitation. And so if you support growing jobs and exporting coal safely, you need to come up and let me know so I can let them know that you'll be there. What it's working on is building a volunteer base to counter FUSE, PPC, and the Sierra Club. FUSE Washington is the state's largest progressive organization. PPC is Power Pass Coal, and of course we all know who the Sierra Club is. I think I'll skip the video because we're running short, but what we've got are 2 locations in Washington that can be used for coal exports to Asia. Longview is the one that's discussed in the video, and Cherry Point is in Whatcom County, just a little bit north of Bellingham. So you can see what the proponents are saying. They say that initially it's going to create almost 3,000 jobs in construction. After everything's built out, at least 300. 16 million in wages, 49 million in direct output each year. You have some investment there, a lot of environmental controls and things that way. The proponents for this talk about job growth, economic benefits not only to Washington State but also Wyoming, Montana, and North Dakota. There are tremendous environmental regulations and regulations that need to be cleared. The opponents, of course, are the environmentalists and the climate warriors, and of course all the NIMBY groups, the Not in My Backyard groups. So if you want to attend tomorrow, let me know. A lot of people are concerned about coal dust. That's what we hear a lot of. But they have, I want to call it a hairspray. They have a solution that they spray over the coal in the trains so they don't do coal dust. Other people complain about increased train traffic and they'll be stopped at railroad crossings. So just something to know about. And really, if we want to promote this and develop more economies for our part of the country, it's something that you'll want to do. Upcoming events real quick. This Thursday, February 11th, is the Ponderosa Republican Women. They have Chris Cargill coming from Washington Policy Center. He's talking about the 2016 Washington State Legislature, short session, tall tasks, and remote possibilities. So should be a good talk. Friday morning breakfast club. This is Rob Chase handles that every Friday morning. They meet at the Bangkok Thai restaurant on Trent, northeast corner of Trent and Hamilton. This Friday, you have Mitch Reister, Spokane County Roads Department, and the next Friday, you have Kurt Fackler, who works with the Washington Health Plan Finder, the Obamacare thing. Charge $5. This is where you were going to talk, Rob, but you aren't now. And the admission's $5, and you get coffee and a donut for that. On February 19th, how many of you were here last week when Tim Ben gave his presentation? I mean, it was a great presentation, right? So he is doing that again Friday, February 19th at Teenaid. There's the address. Again, you have your purple pieces of paper. Use them, write them down. That is definitely a program that you want to get especially parents to, or even people that aren't parents yet and are thinking they're going to have children, because they need to know what the state has in store for them as far as rearing their children for them. So Friday, February 19th. Washington State Republican caucuses happen on Saturday, February 20th, 10 o'clock in the morning. Be there a little early. Do you know what precinct you're in? Do you know where to go to caucus? If you don't know, you go to the SpokaneCountyGOP.com site, and there's a locator there. You'll be able to find it. You need to go. And then we have Lincoln Day coming up on April 30th. Stephanie Cates is the vice chair of the Spokane County GOP, and she's also the chair of Lincoln Day. She was the chair of Lincoln Day last year and put on one heck of a good program with Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. So in 2016, she has a surprise for us.
Boy, how did she plan that?
Just click it when you want the thing to show.
Thanks. Thank you. Well, some of you were there at the meeting on Saturday, and some of you are already aware of this news. But for those of you who are not, our 2016 Lincoln Day speaker is Dinesh D'Souza. And of course, you may be aware that Gonzaga College Republicans are hosting him at the end of February, February 24th, and that the administration of Gonzaga has deemed that that should be closed to the public, so students only. And
hate speech.
Yeah, because it's hate speech, and he's anti-immigrant, even though he is an immigrant himself. So, but through some serendipitous timing, I had already secured him for our Lincoln Day back in mid-January. By dealing with his agent or his assistant. So when all this broke last week over Gonzaga, I knew we were kind of sitting on a big deal here with announcing it. And now, of course, more people know who he is than I think did before. And so I almost feel like sending a bouquet of flowers to the Gonzaga administration, because it's just going to drive the attendance up at our event.
So where do people go? Where do people go to learn about it and buy tickets?
Yes, SpokaneGOP.com. That's our county website for the County Republican Party. And it is Saturday, April 30th at the Grand Hotel downtown. That is Bloomsday weekend, but we are going to work that into the program, and we are actually going to get you out at a decent hour, so if you are running or walking the next day, you can get a good night's sleep. But he is actually coming out with a new movie this summer based on this book, Stealing America. This is his latest one, and as Tim Ben pointed out, it probably should be past tense. But that movie is debuting the first day of the Democrat National Convention on July 25th. So we will actually be able to see a preview of that movie before it's even, the trailer's even out. So this is really exciting. Tickets are going fast. We announced it to the PCOs, as I said, on Saturday. We've already sold more than half of the tickets that we sold all of last year. So I have upped the attendance estimate. Last year we had just under 500 people. Our room at the Grand can max out at 800. I think we're going to hit it. We're about 30% of the way there, so it's very exciting. Of course, this is a big fundraiser that we have every year for the Republican Party, and I hope you will participate and buy your tickets. Thank you.
Well, and we need a big fundraiser because this is an election year. And again, guys, we make a difference locally. Don't get all wrapped up in the national elections. We know that we have good GOP candidates. Okay, cool. We are going on to tonight's movie. Lights, camera, action. Hey guys, thanks for this evening. I really appreciate the turnout. John's going, get over there, because I'm outside the lines. We did cut short a lot of the questions that you had for different people. Dan is still here from the 63rd. Tom Horn is here. Tom, we gave the ratings that the John Birch Society at least gave Kathy McMorris, etc. tonight. You might want to stand up so everyone can see you. They may want to talk with you. But Tom is going to run this election season against Kathy McMorris. And he has cards. I just,
If anybody wants to.
Anybody, there's a microphone here, or if you just want to stand up and talk, Jeff's in the back, but really appreciate, I see Richard over there with his hand up, and this gentleman here,
everybody's got a little statue of somebody they think's important. I think we ought to hire a sculptor and make a statue of Tim Eyman. He's actually saved the taxpayers of Washington State billions of dollars in tax income. And money is the cocaine or the heroin of government and helps it expand. And he's done a yeoman's job in keeping that money from your government. And he's back on it. Now remember, way back when, just not that long ago, we had a $30 license tab? Okay, and what happened then? Up, up, up. Well, he's back at it again, and he's going to bring it back down to $30. Now, he's also the instrumental force behind the two-thirds majority for tax increases. And the Washington State voters have put that in, is it 6 times or 7 times? Which one's is it?
It's a lot of times.
And they have got every method of blocking it they can. So He's getting back at it, and we're going to go for the 2/3 majority again and making certain that that passes. Right?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
So I'd like to gather up, if you fill these out, I'm going to walk around and gather them up because we're hoping to submit them the day after Valentine's Day. So thank you.
Black hearts.
Yeah.
Behind you, the gentleman there wants to talk behind you, John.
Oh, you? I grabbed it. Oh, you did? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Randy Mace. I'm with the 63rd also. I don't know what made me bring this with me tonight, but my gut feeling said grab it. And in case you weren't believing some of it, here's the book, New World Order. The New World Order Constitution is written in here, 64 pages, and it's extremely disturbing once you read it. I'm going to leave a copy with John up here, and he can make copies to get distributed to everybody. But it's worth looking at because it fits right in with everything that just went on today.
Behind you.
Hi. I just want to share just a super quick, short little experience. I went to Olympia with, I'll leave her name out of it because she's not here to give me permission to say her name, but Rob set me up with someone that's I guess if you were going to label her, a very well-known, respected progressive. And we went to Olympia to work on issues with freedom. Freedom for parents, it was the immunization thing. Freedom for parents to be able to choose for their own children whether they're going to have immunizations or not, and not put that in the hands of government. So she's a Bernie Sanders supporter, and all of her friends are Democrats, and we shared a hotel room and really enjoyed each other's company. And we both had a lot of aha moments where she's hearing me talk to these property rights people and how we really want to protect the environment, but we can see some of these underlying things that are really not protecting the environment, these things that are talked about in here. And she was just amazed, like, wow, we really do in our heart wanting the same things, even though we see it differently. I guess one of the things that caught me from this is the beginning where it said that Hitler and Stalin, these evil people, saying we would be doing the same things if we believed what they believe and we were in their positions and we were raised by their parents and we had all that right. So the thing it said here about in Islam there is no love, and it's the weak point of Islam. To love it hits their weak point. And I just want to say that the tendency is here that the liberals are the enemy, they're the bad guys, the Bernie Sanders, they're the bad guys, which really, it comes back to the same thing. It's not just the weak point of Islam. It's the weak point of anything. Any of this evil, the satanic things that are underneath it and pushing it, the weak point is love. So just encouragement for all of us. When we see these polarizing things that want us to attack and see these human beings that are, believing these kind of things, socialism is the answer, that are outspoken communists, that we can have that same, perspective that love is still going to pierce that weak spot in the armor, and that we can see them as human. And that was my experience with this wonderful lady I got to share my time with, and it opened doors to understand that even if we see them as deceived, they're human, and we can love, we can have connection, and yeah, that's all.
Super. Okay, thank you. And I think, what we heard tonight really adds a lot of credence to what Tim Ben's presentation is all about. And so, Tim, I'm sure you have a couple words to say as far as, we have got to save our children.
All these well-researched guys that do these movies, they always forget early learning. And in the last two addresses where Obama has addressed the nation, and Hillary now, pushing early learning. They need the children younger because they're being influenced by the parents too long. And so really they want the kids out of the home earlier because, as this movie says, it's convenient. So we've got to stop early learning. And basically Bill Gates summed it up in a video on Facebook and YouTube. You can find it. Bill Gates said, we can reduce the world's population if we can control healthcare, education, and vaccinations. And that was something that he attested to, I think it was about 15 years ago, in front of an elitist group.
Research the Zika virus. It's very interesting. Bill Gates would be.
Rockefeller said the same thing.
Okay, anybody else? Okay. Sure, and then if you have questions for Dan here, you probably want to ask him a few things, I'm sure.
Since we brought up the environmental movement in this movie, I saw a short video this afternoon called Dead Harvest. If you haven't seen it, just search for it on the internet. It's easy to find.
Write it down on your purple paper.
Yeah.
Dead Harvest.
Dead Harvest is about the evisceration of the agricultural area in the San Joaquin Valley and most of California, really. And the parallel between California and, of course, Washington State is many faceted. We seem to be chasing after the socialism of California and tying our economy and tying our RCWs and our rulemaking to California. But also we happen to have a redistribution of water in Washington State, just like in California with the Bacon siphon. It was half completed back after shortly following the 20s, and has never been completed, but it is the second most productive breadbasket of this nation right here in the Columbia Basin. And the environmental movement has been after the basin for years. They thought they had them when the study was finally commissioned to determine how much water the siphon was actually stealing from the Columbia River, until the study discovered that there was more water downstream than there was upstream of the siphon. So that one didn't work. But they will never go away. They will always be there looking to outlaw and destroy that incredibly productive area called the Columbia Basin. So just a heads up, it was a very well put together video.